Hello there, and welcome to the Cargo Bay, a Lucasfilm Limited conversation podcast. That's right, today we are talking Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I am, of course, BC, here with my co host.
Adam B. How's it going, BC?
It's going good. It's going good. I'm excited to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Of course, usually we're talking Star Wars, but we can certainly make an exception for a Lucasfilm limited production and anything with Harrison Ford, I would say.
Yeah. I don't watch a lot of things in my life, BC, but I've spent a lot of time with Dr. Jones. So maybe that's a good place to start, BC.
I love it.
I don't really know your history with Dr. Jones, with Indiana boy. I'm a little tired, BC.
Hey,
I'm working it out over here. I just got my coffee.
Right. Words are hard. We'll figure it out. My history with Dr. Jones is not too dissimilar, I feel like, from my history with Star Wars, where I feel like it's almost always been there. Like, I feel like I was exposed to Indiana Jones at a very young age, either on a VHS or a replay on television when I was really young. So I don't remember like my first like time watching it, but I remember being totally into whatever it was that I was watching. And I mean, the thing that immediately sticks out to me is like the iconography of the hat and the bullwhip. Like being two of the coolest things that I'd ever seen in my young life. I do remember being really freaked out by Temple of Doom as a child, specifically like eating the monkey brains. Like that Temple of Doom, I probably saw when I was a smidge too young. Like I feel like I probably saw Raiders or even Last Crusade first. I'm not sure, but then I remember seeing Temple of Doom and being like, I don't like this one as much. And my parents were like, it's okay, it's a movie. They're not really eating monkey brains. So those are like my earliest memories, but have never strayed from the way of always being willing to rewatch Raiders of the Lost Ark or Last Crusade at literally any given moment.
Yeah.
I rewatched the original three within the last like week and a half just to get ready. Sorry, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
We watched that together recently, so
we did watch that together, and it was
fresh
basically
on that
just
one.
and that was the first time I saw it, and it was just like a dunk fest on how bad that movie was. I feel like I owe it like one more chance, but I don't have high hopes for it being good in any way. But yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are asking the question: is this Indiana Jones or is Crystal Skull? Which one of these Indiana Jones or which is better than the other? And I think it's a valid question. I have a lot of problems with Crystal Skull, of course, but I like the first chunk of that movie a lot. But yeah, my history with Indiana Jones is similar. I was too young to watch Raiders for a while. Knew it was one of my dad's favorite movies, so when I finally got to watch it, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is awesome." I was not allowed to watch Temple of Doom for some years after that. And Last Crusade is the first movie I ever bought with like my own money. I did chores to get the $10 copy at Walmart. And
amazing.
That's probably my favorite Indiana Jones. After rewatching them, I even rewatched Temple of Doom, which I almost never watch. I found a lot more to like in it this time around, but not my favorite one.
No.
For many different reasons. But yeah, I'm a huge fan. I mean, Harrison Ford is my my movie star growing up. That's the person I watched growing up, being like, this is what a cool man is.
I mean, I think, well, part of what I love about Dial of Destiny coming out, it's just like we get to have renewed like Harrison Ford discourse around like he's like the best movie star of all time, right? Like, it's, if not the top, he's one of the most iconic faces in the history of cinema, which is no small feat. Like if you think about franchise acting, he's got Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Like he
Yeah,
is,
and just
he,
tossing a little Blade Runner on the side. Why not?
yeah, a little something special for you too. And yeah, he's gonna be doing something for Marvel, like whatever, like cash your check as you're easing into the twilight, I guess, you know. Um, but just in like he's got the Jack Ryan movies, you know, he's got Clear and Present Danger and The Fugitive. When was the last time you watched The Fugitive? That movie slaps. It's
Pretty
so
rad.
good.
Yeah,
He's
I
just
watched a clip of Harrison Ford being like, they were asking about The Fugitive, and he was like, I don't really look at my movies as action movies. I look at them as movies that have action in them. I'm like, no, The Fugitive is pretty much an action movie. Last time I watched it, I was like, oh, this thing's
a
a
straight up chase action
yeah.
movie. I heard someone, I forget some other podcast I heard, but it's like I think it was actually James Mangold talking about Harrison Ford. It's like he approaches it, you know, knowing what it is, but it's all in service of the story. So it's like he knows what the story needs, and he's just like uniquely fitted for genre, like big genre movies, which has made him like such a big part of like my movie going life that you see him on the screen and it resonates like immediately. He's just the coolest dude that you can see on a big screen, even when he's 80 years old in the Dial of Destiny.
That's I like that Harrison Ford. I like that I grew up in a brief period of time, kind of. I guess not in between, running simultaneous with like the bodybuilder craze. But
Mm-hmm.
Harrison Ford is kind of a normal looking guy, and in his
Yes.
physique. I mean, he's shirtless in Temple of Doom, and like he's been doing some exercises, right? But
Yeah.
it's not where we are now, or I feel like when I see an action hero on screen, it's almost always like someone I can't relate to at all, and that they spend like 20 hours in the gym all day. Right?
Well, it's like he in the late 70s pushing into the 80s, it did become like Schwarzenegger and Stallone and dudes who are just
which I
totally
love.
yeah, which to be fair is
Good
fun
time.
as hell. But it's like I do have a much harder time relating to an action hero that's like jacked out of their mind, as opposed to like Harrison Ford, who's definitely a fit dude, but it's not like ripped to shreds and built to hell. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he does look like he looks like a carpenter. He looks like a good looking dude who was pulled out of the woodworking shop. And they're like, "Hey, you should be a movie star." And he's like, "Okay." And and there he was, and there he has been, basically since he first appeared on screen.
That's my big thing with discussing the Dial of Destiny, BC, is I'll go ahead and say it's not my favorite Indiana Jones movie. I didn't come out of the theater being like, woohoo, they did it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've led this charmed life of having a lot of already like nostalgia stuff thrown my way. I'm in that marketing period where advertisers want my money, like whatever,
Yeah.
18 to 35 or whatever, not for much
Yeah.
longer. But we are reaching the twilight of kind of where that's even an option for us, right? Like Harrison Ford's
Yeah.
not going to last forever. Our filmmaking heroes aren't going to last forever. And so I'm really there are a lot of things that I do like about the movie, and even when I was sitting there watching it, I was trying to remember. You're not gonna get this again, man. Like try to enjoy this. I understand if people being completely cynical about it, reasons to be that way too. But
Sure.
it's been a weird thing to get new Indiana Jones and new Star Wars and new whatever. And so yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy I got to go see it.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm definitely happy I got to go see it, and like I mean, just going into it, like I had I'd say a really open mindset after like it got trashed at the Cannes Film Festival. Where it was like people in Cannes were like, "This is not good."
Yeah.
It's like, all right, okay, maybe don't premiere Dial of Destiny at the most like hoity-toity film festival you possibly can. But like whatever. Like I also didn't have expectations like this is going to be as good as Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No.
This is going to be the the epitome of action filmmaking. I thoroughly expected this to be like 21st century version of Indiana Jones, which is exactly what it was. And there's a lot that I liked about it. There's a lot that I was like, this kind of stinks, but like it's the pace at which almost all Indiana Jones movies move doesn't give you a lot of time to be like, let me really think about the logic of some of this stuff, which I like that it's just like, hey, just go for the ride. Like that's what all these stories are. It's just like a thrill ride, you know?
I just
And they're
felt the ride
designed
was a
to be that
little
way.
too long. Where I was
It-
thinking about it sometimes. When we had old man Indiana Jones riding a golf cart for 20 minutes, like I was like, there's a lot of that where I was like, all right, can
Would
we keep moving here?
Would you rather cut Ticker Tape Parade, Scuba with the Eels, or like 5 minutes of chasing at any given point?
Oh, I'll
in
cut
the
any
cars?
of the other chases for the Indiana Jones riding a horse around in the
Okay.
city. I thought that was great.
Okay. All right.
I would cut the golf cart in, where were they? They were in Spain somewhere.
Something.
Morocco.
Yeah.
But,
North Africa.
well,
somewhere.
yeah, whatever the scooter chase was. That's my least favorite, I think.
So let's do this. We've already started jumping into the movie. Let's start with what maybe the hardest part, the initial jump for me, which is the beginning of this movie.
yeah.
Where we go back in time to 1944 as we're questing for another MacGuffin, the Lance of Longinus, or the spear that stabbed Christ, whatever it is. So we're off on that particular adventure, and we've got a thoroughly de-aged Harrison Ford on screen with a thoroughly not de-aged Harrison Ford voice coming out of this computer puppet's mouth. Was very jarring for me.
I was a wild place to start because I was already coming in knowing there was going to be DH Harrison Ford and trying to like be okay with that because I don't like watching it.
No, I don't.
It doesn't work for me. So I was like, try to enjoy this. There's gonna be big chunks of DH Harrison Ford, and I'm looking at him like, this will be interesting, and then it's like, it's like, oh right,
that's not the indie voice I remember,
right? Which I don't have any problem with Harrison Ford sounding like an old man as an old man, but sounding like an old man as a non old man, it's a little weird. It's so weird.
I mean, I do hate it. Like, I really do hate it. Like, I hate Grand Moff Tarkin.
Yep.
I hate seeing computer face Luke Skywalker in everything. Computer face Carrie Fisher in Rogue One. I think they're all terrible.
I can't believe they keep doubling down on this tech. Like, this is a long chunk of the movie.
Very long. There are parts of it to their credit, there are parts of it where it's believable enough, but like we obviously know that's not what he looks like. I can't get over the hurdle in my mind. It's like, okay, yeah, that's definitely just CGI that's happening. Like some of the train jumping wide shots, that looks like crap.
Well, the pull out, when they pull out and he's running across the train, because I went with my wife and she enjoyed this movie, had a good time. The only thing that I heard her audibly laugh at, though, is we pull out, we get the title card, we get the theme song, and it's just like he's running across the train. It's just a CG model where he's still running as if he's an old man, kind of.
Yes,
but it's all
horrific.
CG. I don't understand.
It's truly, truly bad. But I will say there are times when it's like, okay, I can see the effect is working. You know what I mean? It's like
I can picture this story in my head.
Right.
Like I can.
That looks like a young dude. But then as soon as he opens his mouth, I'm like, oh, right, yeah, it's old ass Harrison Ford, amazing. No, nothing against you for being old Harrison Ford, but it's like that's an old voice coming out of a computer mouth, and it's just like it fundamentally doesn't work for me, and it makes me long for anything else. The days of when when we used to make movies in this country.
Yeah.
Like when in the wide shot, I bring this up all the time as one of my favorite things, just to reference in film. The wide shot in Raiders of the Lost Ark, after he's had the Duke him out with that huge guy who gets chopped up by the plane.
Yeah, yeah,
And then they just start blowing shit up.
yeah.
Like they blow the setup in a wide shot while people are running out of frame. I don't know if it's Harrison Ford or his stunt double, but you see a dude like running for his life because they're blowing shit up around them.
They cut to
It's like-
Belloc, and there's like an explosion close enough to them that you know you could feel
Yeah.
the fire. Like,
I'm like, this is when we made movies, when we almost killed people. It's like,
that's my big takeaway from this whole experience is just what I love most about Indiana Jones is how visceral the action can seem like without
Yes.
it being like rated R action. It feels
Yeah.
like violent and impactful.
Yes.
And this will just never be for me. Movies like this will never be for me. Where it's all CG all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me. And it's one of the reasons why I haven't watched a ton of the Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
Is I'm willing to put up with it for my Star Wars or for my Indiana Jones, but I don't think it's ever going to work for me. I'm always going to be an old man watching Last Crusade being like, did you see him jump on the tank? It's incredible.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just old man on the lawn shaking my fist at the sky, ruining the day.
But we did get
yeah.
this 30-minute CG action sequence. I was doing my best to enjoy. But I was also like, we're gonna get out of this. So what I'm really looking
Yes.
forward to is coming after. Like, fine, let's do this intro. I'm ready for old man Harrison Ford on the screen.
And I gotta say, it's a funny cut to him being like grizzled, half naked in his chair and waking up to the Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour. And then he stands up and you're like, Harrison Ford is ripped as hell for an 80-year-old man.
This is it's both like it's wonderful to not see them shy away from like he's an 80-year-old man.
Yeah.
And it's also like, yeah, I hope I've got like visible muscle mass when I'm 80.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, it's really smart too. I love the shot for a couple reasons, but I think the thing I like the most about it is one, hey, he's a good-looking old man, but two, it's like it lends into the like, hey, he's about to be doing a bunch of crazy shit in this movie that we need to somewhat believe in. So
yeah.
the fact that he does still have like muscle mass on his body and looks like he's in shape does help sell that he's like capable of adventuring again. Like it makes sense that that's what they cut to is like, yeah, he's old, but he could probably still.
But he's got kind of an Iggy Pop vibe.
Yeah, he could definitely rock with the Stooges if he had to. Yeah.
There's also just not enough old body representation where you get that kind of like, what's going to happen to me, where you squish down and your rib cage kind of pops forward and like,
like your body starts expanding in ways you didn't think it would. Yeah. Like I'm used to getting wider, but not going like outward with my actual skeleton.
It started to happen to me already, BC. Like I'm noticing like the weird old man chest forming. It's like
just like growing out. And I'm like, what's happening to my torso? Yeah, he rocks it though. He looks good.
Yeah. I appreciated it. Because I don't feel like it goes out of its way to be flattering. It is presenting an old man as an old man, and that's my favorite things through the movie are presenting an old man as an old man. So anyway, he wakes up, he goes, bangs on his neighbor's door, tell him stop playing the Beatles. They're like,
you can't play the Beatles.
It's Moon Day, bro.
you got to celebrate the Moon Day. Times they are changing, man.
How do you feel about this? How do you feel they did the period justice? Because obviously in other Indiana Jones movies, we got these. They're supposed to be like, serials, so they're not striving to be super realistic, and neither is this. I know that Parade was real or whatever, but it's a little.
I mean, in terms of how it's rendered on screen.
Yeah, just as like, of course his next door neighbor's house is full of like hippies smoking pot and listening to the Beatles. I don't, like that's a little on the nose, but I don't know, it's fun, I guess.
It's definitely, I don't know. It's fun, but to me, again, like a lot of this is a lot of my gripes with the movie do come down to the like, I just don't love CGI. You
Yep.
know what I mean? I understand the necessity of it. Like it costs 10 times more to go out and recreate a block of New York City as like a period piece and
Does
dress
it
everybody
though?
in costumes and all that sort of stuff.
Because this movie was $300 million. It was
It
$300 million.
is expensive. Yeah, it was pricey. But like it just in terms of all of the legwork that goes into it, I mean, there's a reason that Hollywood does it this way, and it's because it costs them less money. You know what I mean? It's like I
Yes.
do just wish the time and effort was taken to do this, which is why like I resonate with like indie movies that go out of their way to be like, we're gonna be a period movie. We're not gonna be huge and it's not gonna be big, but like we'll pay attention to the detail. I think it's rendered fair enough, but I still like bump up against the fact it's like, yeah, but it's all just like computers and green screens and
Yeah.
I mean, there are some shots in the movie that are cool, but there's nothing as iconic as like Indiana Jones walking like, and it's his silhouette on the top of the sand in Raiders, and it's like
Yeah.
that's a perfect shot from Spielberg. Like, there's no single shot in this movie that even comes close to the
No.
cinematography in the original movies.
The biggest improvement over Crystal Skull for me was this one did have murder and violence. There's
Yeah,
some good murder and violence.
a lot of murder in this movie,
It
by
was
the way.
it made me happy because Crystal Skull, Indiana Jones doesn't shoot his revolver off
Yeah,
once. He like
yeah,
and part of the fun of these movies to me is the like it's the violence. It's like oh,
yeah,
like the opening. My favorite part of that opening sequence was when they blow up the train gun and the gun's all crooked and it starts just
yeah,
blowing people off the side of the train. I was like,
yeah.
okay, I could get down for this. And there is a fair amount of gore and violence, and Indy gets to shoot some guns at people. But yeah, there's nothing even close to a Raiders or a Last Crusade, you know, sequence for me in this. And part of it is just
No.
because it's all fake.
Yeah,
It's all a
yeah.
cartoon.
I do want to shout out the sound design for all of the punches. I watched
Mm.
this in a Dolby Atmos theater. Those punches still pack a wallet, baby. I
Nice.
love the sound effect of a nice Indiana Jones punch thrown. Um, there was, I would say, I don't know if it's a surprising, but a lot of more murdering than I would have suspected.
Yeah. Yeah.
We get into so once he goes into like we get him like teaching, and we go into sort of the next segment of the movie, and he's like in Hunter College, which is where he's been working for the past decade.
Not the one he used to work
Spoiler
at.
warning, everybody! We're spoiling this movie, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
His son Mutt is dead.
Uh-huh.
His wife, Marion, has left him. He's depressed. He's working at Hunter College. Things aren't going well for our hero. And we see kind of like his 10-year anniversary. They give him a clock, and it's like it's all of like the depressing stuff of being in the academic department, and you're aging out and all this sort of stuff. And we get this like the dial of destiny, the MacGuffin comes into play here, where Helena, his goddaughter,
Uh-huh.
played by the wonderful Phoebe Bridges, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is her name. Played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, comes in, and they're talking about the dial of destiny that he is procured at the end of the opening sequence, and is thought to have been destroyed. But guess what? No, it's lurking beneath some artifacts in Hunter College. She's after it for uh, capitalist reasons. I get it. She wants to make some cheddar. But we get the Nazi. Hey, the Nazi force is always after us. The Nazi forces like converge on the college, and the most shocking murder is when
Yeah.
they just straight up shoot the like secretary when she's like, "Hey, what are you doing chasing after Indiana Jones in our archives?" Boom, murdered. I was like, "Damn, that was cold blooded."
It's pretty intense, and not only that, but we
Yeah.
get in this movie several times what we never really get from Indiana Jones, aside from with Marion. It's like you know, Indiana Jones is like, oh fuck, this is fucked up. Like this is
Whoa.
my poor, you know, like
Yeah.
this person who worked in this office with me has been murdered. Like, and he's
She's
affected by
murdered?
it.
Another colleague is murdered.
Yeah.
Helena escapes with the Dial of Destiny. I don't know how much we need to follow the MacGuffin of it, but
No.
the MacGuffin goes off, and then we're gonna move the plot because of the MacGuffin. But when he like takes her pulse, so you're like, damn, she got straight up murdered in cold blood.
I love that moment. I love all of these somber moments in this movie are my favorite. Like watching an old man Indiana Jones check someone's pulse. It's like
phenomenal.
that doesn't happen in the other Indiana Jones movies. Like, I'm not gonna get better
No.
than that. So
No.
good for Dial of Destiny.
I also think that there's a slight thing that kind of gets lost where it's like, I mean, they do play it up a little bit. It's like, and now Indiana Jones is wanted for murder, so he's got to escape.
Yeah.
Like, that seems to kind of go away.
Well, he
fairly
immediately
quickly.
takes his passport to the
And it's like,
airport.
yeah,
Like,
and then-
gets out of there.
Yeah,
so.
gets out of there. Which we can't glide past his ride to the airport. But yeah, we do. Before that, we get the horse running through the parade. We get the ticker tape parade
was
as
fun.
he's escaping.
That was
Fun
the only
stuff.
sequence where I had a little bit of edge of my seat feeling, really,
Mhm.
because you know, I was worried about that horse.
Yeah, I did not want the horse to get hit by a train.
And you get a couple real shots of Harrison Ford on a horse, not many,
Yeah.
but a couple. And that's always been a cool thing about Indiana Jones is like Harrison Ford doesn't do his own stunts all the time, but he does ride a horse pretty well. It's
Yep.
fun to watch.
Yep, he can mount a horse still. I don't think he was riding it through the subway
No.
himself. I think that was Steve in the graphics department who was working on that particular sequence. It was animating it, but yeah, it looked cool. It was an exhilarating sequence. It's juxtaposed nicely with the wave of the future being space and exploration, and he's the archaeologist like stuck in the past. Like, hey, you know, visual metaphor, fun.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
fun
get
that
all of
Indiana Jones hates space. That's fun.
Yeah. Like, I don't care. And the Nazi doesn't care about space either.
Right.
Also, just shout out to this movie for straight up not being afraid to say, hey, we should both kill and punch Nazis as often and as frequently as we can.
I'm a bit of a you know, I stand a good Nazi punch. I watched something recently talking about Temple of Doom and how much fun it is that, you know, we're not just dealing with Nazis again, and how that's kind of a letdown of Last Crusade. I'm sorry, I could watch 8 movies about Indiana Jones just fighting Nazis. They're my favorite people to kill on screen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I have zero qualms about it.
yeah,
You
glad
know,
they're back.
Yeah, I'm
You
glad.
know what I mean. to get punched.
Breaking news. Local man says he's glad Nazis are back. I don't know if you want to record that. You might wanna
No.
edit that
Well,
out.
a lot of people are.
Yeah,
It seems like a
exactly.
lot of people are, unfortunately.
Yeah, not great. So if you get the chance, punch a Nazi. That's my recommendation.
Well, as he's running from the U.S. government and the Nazis, we go to our old friend Sala's house. This is wild. I love watching John Rhys-Davies as Gimli,
Mhm.
as Sala. But here's the deal: John Rhys-Davies is a Welshman. He's not an Egyptian. Friend of the show, Kimatsimu, was talking to me about that. He was like, "They're just gonna recast that guy," and I was like, I always thought that he was living in Egypt, but he was like born like he was the son of a colonist. Like, I thought he was a
Right.
white guy
Yeah,
living
yeah.
in Egypt,
Yeah.
who just like grew up there. No, that's not his backstory at all. He's just a Welshman playing Sala. And that still happens, and the way they kind of compensate for that in this movie is they have a really jammed-in scene where it's like, oh, my children are here, and they're learning both about their Egyptian heritage and their American heritage, and it's this kind of like trying to paste over. But my main problem with John Rhys-Davies is he's on record publicly as being an asshole about things he didn't need to talk about at all.
Mm.
It's just like, why recast this man? Put in Short Round. Like, what are we doing?
It would have been great. I will give him a shout out for nailing his close up take of wanting to have adventure again and take me with you, Indiana Jones. Is like that resonated in a way that's like, I don't know if that's the character, or if that's old man John Rhys Davies actually just talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's the level of performance that he gave. But yeah, it was a little jarring to see that particular role reprised in this.
Yeah, it's
like,
weird.
Look at my
City Egyptian children.
Driver.
Yeah. Also,
yeah, you know.
like I don't know. Just just weird choice.
It doesn't stop me from enjoying the movie, and his performance is fine, but it was just kind of like, well, it's fun that I guess he's in it. Throwback.
Yeah, well, that's again, like, it's problematic casting from the 80s, but he's always like, he's fun in that role. Like, you know, it's a fun character. When I was a child, one of my favorite things in Indiana Jones ever is when Marcus Brody and Sala are together bumbling around and he like punches a guy through the paper, like, but anyway, he's there and he's in the movie a little bit, more than I expected, honestly.
Yeah, he got a couple scenes in, which is I thought we were done with him at the airport, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, he sends Indiana Jones off. He's like, "Good luck." And can I come? No, I'm the movie star still.
Yeah, no, you're too old.
You're lucky to get a little bit.
But he gives a nice little speech there. It's a nice moment. It definitely plays into the themes of aging and facing your own mortality in a lot of ways, which I think is a good through line for this movie, especially when your movie star looks like he does. And then we're gonna go overseas to North Africa. I think is kind of where we are, right? Essentially.
I don't know. I'm not a geologist or an anthropologist of any kind.
I didn't follow the map close enough to see exactly where we were.
I think it said geologist. Let me take another swig of coffee.
I think they're in Tangier, which is Morocco. So they're in Morocco, and Helena is auctioning off the Dial of Destiny to the highest bidder, which of course Indiana Jones can't stand for. One, it probably belongs in a museum, and two, you can't let it get into the hands of the Nazis. So then we get another big, everyone convenes in the same location at the same time, walloping fun time, which leads to a big escape sequence. We're introduced to this movie's skeleton key, Teddy.
Okay.
Yeah, I think his name is Teddy, the kid who unlocks about 15 different plot mechanics throughout this movie going forward, including the fact that when we first meet him, he's learning flight control, which is like, all right, there's Chekhov's flight controls. Yeah, that kid's definitely going to fly a plane later.
Like, really ham-fisted. Like, here we go. We really need to establish that.
It is. Go back and watch it again just for all of the things that they make Teddy do as plot devices. Of like, hey, Teddy, we're going to need you to fly a plane. Hey, Teddy, you need to be really good at pickpocketing. Hey, Teddy, by the way, you can't swim, but someone's going to tell you how to swim. So when we throw you in the water, you know how to swim because we've got to solve that problem that we made for ourselves earlier. There's just a lot of like retrofitting Teddy into some of the plot. You're just like, it's just really funny to me.
Yeah.
Like Teddy can be whatever you need him to be. He's a utility knife. If you need him to slice dice, he'll do it all. But yeah, we're introduced to him learning to fly a plane with like makeshift controls or whatever. And some pilot's like, now what do you do with the yaw? And it's like, okay, Teddy's gonna fly a plane later. I'm very excited about that. But this leads into the whole big like street chase where they're bumper cars and go-karts and whatever. It's a really long sequence of chasing through the street.
And it also continues to establish that Indiana Jones and his goddaughter Wombat, Helena.
Yeah.
They have a contentious relationship because she wants to
Yes.
make money and he wants things in museums.
Yeah.
And I saw a meme the other day I'd seen where someone did like the Anakin Padme meme, but reformatted as Indiana Jones, where he's like got the idol and he's like, "This belongs in a museum," and someone's like, "In its country of origin, right?" He just like keeps smiling.
Country of origin, right? That's really good.
But anyway, the most interesting thing that happens in this long. Again, it's an old man driving a golf cart like for 30 minutes.
A really fast golf cart that
very
holds up to a lot of damage.
Yeah.
A lot.
But at the end of that, they get cornered, and then a gang shows up because Helena was boinking the leader of the gang.
Right. I almost forgot about the third party that's introduced into that. Yeah.
It's a little weird how it unfolds, but I do
Also,
like.
shout out to you using the word boinking just now.
I'm assuming here, but I think
I think she was boinking. I think you're right. There was definite boinking occurring,
and she gets to be the she gets to take on some of the attributes of the young man Indiana Jones. In her character, she's the rascal. She's the one getting him into trouble. And it's not great, but it's fine. I think it's like, I was like, okay, cool, this is funny, I guess.
Yeah.
And then what happens, VC? What happens after that? They get away.
They get out of it. They get out of it.
They immediately run into the Nazis after that. Because they're running from the people they stole the dial from at the auction. And they've just escaped the Nazis. But then Teddy walks around a corner and they're the Nazis pulling up on a boat.
Yeah. They end up in the Aegean Sea.
Yeah, they go see Antonio Banderas.
Yes. So they follow the Nazis to Greece to go deep sea diving for the key to get to the other half of the Dial of Destiny.
It's very Rise of Skywalker, this movie, isn't it?
Yes, but somehow not as ham-fisted.
I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of this movie I think is as ham-fisted as Rise of Skywalker. Maybe worse.
I don't think it bothered me as much in this because I expect this from Indiana Jones, where it's like the MacGuffin is as big a point of the story as anything. Whereas Star Wars, I was like, why are you Indiana Jonesing my Star Wars movie? You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Because it felt like they were Indiana Jonesing my Star Wars.
It does feel like a Crystal Skull. There are a lot of Crystal Skull sequences in Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. So they follow them to Greece, where we meet up with Indiana Jones's Frogman, played by Antonio Banderas, who, spoiler alert, is gonna get murdered in cold blood in front of our faces, just like the rest of his crew. Again, the murder train keeps on rolling. But before that, he's developed a diving technique, which I guess is cutting edge for 1969, where you can stay underwater for 3 minutes, because we find out that the wreckage of the ship that had the initial part of the Dial of Destiny that has been discovered is currently in possession of the Nazi. Is the other portion that leads to it was on the same ship, but fell down off of the ocean shelf down to the floor further down. So they're gonna do a 3-minute dive down to where the other part of the wreckage of this. This is all very clumsy. You are correct in stating this, where it's like, I'm having a hard time following it, but I kind of don't care because I get it. It's just to move it forward.
I didn't love the setup for it, but I used to scuba dive, and it was cool to be like, oh right, they didn't really have the tech back then. That's kind of an interesting period thing to do. Is we're gonna do some old school diving. It's interesting.
Did you have any hesitancy about going to the bottom of the ocean after that thing exploded not too long ago?
What thing exploded? Oh,
that little Titanic guy.
You know, I thought it would be an amazing end to this movie if
If Indiana Jones
just died at the bottom of the ocean. Yeah. But I realized also that it was just like an excuse for them to be like, we need 20 more minutes with just CG. We need something we won't have to pay Harrison anything for. And it's really, you know, it's this scene does represent exactly how, even in a CG world, these sequences are not as clever as the old ones. And just that the whole thing is like, there are eels in there. Oh, those kind of look like snakes. No, they don't.
Water snakes.
They go down there, and of course, oh no, there are eels down there. And that's kind of it. Like, it's just like, all right.
It's not as clever. It's,
I don't know.
Antonio Banderas is funny in his brief appearance in this movie. I really liked him.
I did too. It's a weird.
I wish we hadn't killed him so quickly, but
the only clever thing.
He's good.
The only clever thing is I could be making this up. They're like coming up, and there's a shot of someone falling off the boat into the water shot, and I can't even remember if they introduced the Nazi, or maybe it's just the boat pulling up. But it was cool to get the reveal underwater of an oh shit moment. Like
they cut
really
to
grasping
a wide
at straws here. But that was cool.
They cut to the wide of the Nazi boat coming in.
Oh, and then they should have done the opposite.
They should have done the opposite, which is much more affecting, which is the underwater shot when it is right next to the boat. You're like, oh shit. So, and I'm only saying that because I watched Jaws the other day because 4th of July, you know, like everything underwater is so much more affecting when you don't see what's necessarily above it. But if you sense it coming from a distance. But yeah, the shot whenever it's right next to the boat and things start going to hell because the Nazis are coming is pretty good. Of course, we have discovered amazingly the tablet that we need that's got the code that must be deciphered by one of our two heroes at this point, which of course the Nazis can't do. They're not that smart. Which is why Antonio Banderas bites the dust because India is refusing to do it. And Helena says, you know what, I'll translate this cipher for you so you can go find the other half. There's a lot of like Archimedes stuff that I'm just like, all right, we're solving puzzles and it's like a Dan Brown novel and it's kind of fun, whatever.
It's fine. I do realize that a lot of what I liked about Indiana Jones growing up is, you know, I went to church every Sunday, and it was fun to have that mythology that wasn't like actual Bible stories, but like something about it had like gravitas to me because that's the culture I grew up in. Is like, oh, this is the Last Crusade is about the cup of Christ. Like that makes sense as a thing that has weight. The Archimedes stuff is, like you said, a little Dan Brown, a little out of my wheelhouse, where I'm just like, okay, all right, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, shout out Archimedes. We're not knocking you. Appreciate all your work with mathematics and stuff, but just not as familiar with all of your work and your iconography is not quite as iconic as the Cup of Christ or the Ark of the Covenant. You know, just sort of like the Dial of Destiny. It does something with space and time. And you're like, okay.
I guess it's also just like Archimedes is like this movie brings up a lot about this is about math. It's not about magic. Like,
yes.
And I buy that less than starting from a place of magic because I don't believe that Archimedes, however smart he was, could have ever grasped time travel 3,000 years ago or whatever, you know. I do believe that if you're going to say this is about ghosts or space aliens, I'm like, all right, fine, I guess, sure. Anyway, I don't know. It's fine. She's translating the tablet.
She is translating. I did want to shout out, there's a moment in this that is very reminiscent of the Force Awakens moment for me, where Harrison Ford puts on his big boy acting pants and sells the hell out of some stuff in the movie. It's in Force Awakens when it's like, it's real, all of it. And in this movie, he's got a moment where he's like, I've seen things that I can't comprehend. And it's like, the speech that he gives there is like, I was like, is he doing the Force Awakens thing again? Because he's just like, he is selling it so completely where it's like, oh yeah, he is a movie star who can, if he needs to sell the audience and say, hey, you should believe in the magic that you're seeing on the screen. You put those words in his mouth and I'm like, I'm in. Yeah. Magic. Things that are completely impossible. because like there is the world of like magical realism that this exists in, where it's like, yes, it's reality, but there's also stuff that cannot be explained, and it's like he just sells that immediately.
It's
And
a great
he's got,
place to get sentimental, I feel like.
it is,
Without
yeah.
it being too directly fan servicey, where he's just like, yeah, I'm old and I believe in things I didn't used to believe in. It's basically like the gist of it. But
Yeah.
like, I'm, you know, I'm not getting that old, but I am feeling my mortality more, more and more. So it's like that kind of stuff does well for me. And that scene,
I mean,
that,
seeing
I always,
Harrison Ford this old in this movie,
Yeah,
it definitely makes me go, shit, he's gonna be dead soon.
yeah,
Fuck, so am I. You
yeah,
know, like,
yeah.
time flies, man.
And
you know?
that's, I liked that moment. That moment is also where we get the weird, like, so if you could go back in time and change anything, and he's like, I would go back to stop my son from joining the war, you know, because he died in the war. You understand? He's dead now, and it, more importantly, it destroyed my marriage. Like, he's less concerned about my. It's just a little weird that,
He shoehorns it in, you know. Like he does. There are, I don't know. It's just so funny that like at a certain point when they were writing this movie, they're like, "So what do we do about Mutt?" You know, and they're like, "We got to solve the Mutt problem." Well, what if we kill him in Vietnam and then make it a very specific motivating factor for our hero? Like, done. Problem solved. We can wash our hands of Mutt.
Yeah, I never hated Mutt so much, I don't think. But I do like it as a, I do like that we start this movie where we start it, which is like, oh, our hero is old and he's probably gonna die alone. Like that's that's the future he is anticipating. But anyway, they get away from the Nazis on the boat. There's dynamite involved.
Yes, there is.
Then we get one of my favorite things in the movie, because the murders, similarly to our murders in the college, is you really do get a sense of like, wait, these are just normal people who have been caught up in this because of Indiana Jones, and they get destroyed because of it, and it's pretty somber. And they're running away, and Helena is like, oh man, this is great, we got the treasure. And Indiana Jones is like, my friend was just murdered. Like,
it's the funniest thing. It's so funny. It's so funny. It's so funny to call that moment out where he is just like, my friend just died. And she's like, oh, sorry.
Sure. But I like it because
I almost completely forgot about the traumatic murders that happened in front of me. This is fantastic. He's like, did you forget about my friend?
And his crew?
and the
who you wanted to
people who
boink?
got us there. Yeah.
But I thought it was really interesting because like she's exactly, you know, what Indiana Jones would have done in the prior movies, 100%, like completely moving along. And I don't know, maybe it's just because it's the only new thing, but yeah, it's my favorite thing in the movie is that Indiana Jones is affected by people dying now. And it's like
it was really funny because like, not that there's a casualness to how people are murdered, but in these movies, you do move on pretty quickly when Antonio Banderas is killed, and when anyone else is killed, you're like, okay, we take our moment, we move on. The fact that he is like, no, stop the movie, my friend's dead. It's just really funny to me.
Well, the stakes of that sequence feel much higher. I don't know, than a lot of other chunks of the movie, because it is like, oh, he's gonna watch his buddy die in front of him, versus a long CG chase, which I'm sure we're on the way to. What happens next?
A long CG chase. Yeah, so they've got.
Well, they go to the cave. They go to the touristy place.
So we've got to travel by plane out. So they've shot Indiana Jones in the shoulder.
Wait, no, not yet at all. Yet. We've got a whole other chunk of the movie. We got to go to the caves, right?
We do have to go to the cave because then we've got to go, but back in time.
They go to a
Yes,
place. They go to it. This is their. This is really
they
the tomb exploration
they
sequence,
go to
basically.
the ear of Dionysus.
Yeah, which is
Um,
like roped off. They go in there.
yeah,
They do some classic Indiana Jones, like, oh, well, we got to go over here and we got to open the thing. We get a sequence of
there's
Indiana Jones climbing a wall, talking about his vertebrae being turned to dust or
yes.
whatever.
I've been shot 9 times because he's about to get shot again. Foreshadowing. He can take a bullet. We've got to remember that. Um,
They
where
find the tomb of Archimedes.
they find the tomb of Archimedes, who has a wristwatch. Well, how can that be? Wristwatches won't be invented for centuries.
There are eagles with propellers on the wings.
There are propellers. How is this occurring? What did Archimedes know?
And I thought the imagery on the coffin was very like Americana, like it looked like the tomb of a founding father more than the tomb of Archimedes to me. So I thought somehow that was gonna wrap in. It doesn't, but anyway,
Nope.
it's like there's some
Just weird design.
anachronisms in
Yeah.
the coffin, and that's all you need to know.
So we do get another fantastic confrontation again. We've got Teddy being a skeleton key for various things that happen here.
He's been abducted, right?
He's been abducted. He has previously been abducted. They are chasing after the Nazis because the Nazis got Teddy, which is
No, they're
kind
gonna
of
beat
turning...
them. They're gonna beat them to the tomb because don't worry, they didn't kill Teddy. They need him, so we're gonna beat them to the tomb,
right.
and then they'll show up with Teddy.
Another skeleton key plot point for Teddy of getting everybody. Oh no, they need Teddy because he's got information
And
on
they are
where
not
we're
concerned
going.
about him at all. Really,
They're like, we're just gonna get the Dial of Destiny,
Yeah.
and if Teddy's alive, great. If he's dead, sorry, we'll mourn him briefly and move on. It is very convoluted trying to remember what happens and why it happens, but who cares?
Yeah.
So yes, Teddy murders the biggest Nazi underwater.
The most brutal death in the whole movie.
Sickest kill of a Nazi that exists in the movie is when Teddy handcuffs him underwater to a cage. Like, damn, Teddy!
yeah. I was just like, that happened. I was just like, that's fucked up. Like,
That's crazy. It is a crazy kill by a 9-year-old. It's like, whoa.
The big, and he's like the big bruiser Nazi. He's the giant.
Yeah, the biggest Nazi you can imagine.
Is he because there's like some American Nazis who are like,
Yeah.
they're like, we love this Mads Mikkelsen guy, and we're we're hateful American people. Is he American or is he German? That one.
The big one?
Yeah.
I feel like the big one might be German. The mustache guy is definitely one of those Southern fried Nazis.
Yeah.
Who's teaching himself German in the beginning of the movie. Yeah. So all of this shit happens in this cave.
Teddy comes back and they get out.
Yeah, Teddy, sneaky Teddy, helps them escape. Kind of. He helps Helena escape. Indiana Jones gets shot.
No, he doesn't yet. He still doesn't yet.
When the fuck
he gets shot in the plane, right?
He gets shot and then they take him on the plane.
Okay.
Because
that's right. He gets shot and captured
Yeah.
in that sequence. Because there's a gunfight. There's the first gunfight where Harrison Ford gets a gun, and I was very grateful. Look, I'm not a fan of gun violence, but in my Indiana Jones movies, I want to see Harrison Ford shoot some people with a handgun.
There's two things I've learned about you from this podcast: you're glad Nazis are back, and you love gun violence.
But we didn't get that in Crystal Skull at all, and it was satisfying to see Harrison Ford shoot at some Nazis.
Yeah. So the dial is connected. Mads Mikkelsen now has Archimedes' full completed dial of destiny. Harrison Ford, aka Indiana Jones, is shot in the shoulder. Helena and Teddy escape. They've bagged his head. They're taking him on the plane. Helena tells Teddy to go fly a plane, where she asks him if he can fly a plane. He takes off, and she's kind of like, oh no, wait. No, he's doing it anyway. She gets on a motorcycle and chases the Nazi plane as they're escaping and boards through the landing gear.
Yeah. And this is all happening because maybe the most clever thing about the movie is, you know, I'm sure were in their heads were like, this is what the movie is our lead Nazi is doing the classic, I'm going to go back in time and kill Hitler. He wants to kill Hitler too because he's going to win the war. And I thought that was
he's gonna
a
out
fun
Hitler
twist.
Hitler.
Yeah, I thought that was, especially reading it on paper, is like the classic, would you go back in time and kill Hitler? The answer being yes, because I want to do World War II better from as a Nazi. I thought that was a lot of fun. I was like, all right, this is cool.
Let's play a little. Let's have a little ethics moment here.
Uh-huh.
Would you go back in time and kill baby Hitler if he was a baby? No mustache.
No
Zig Heiling, but he's a baby.
No, I'm not messing with the timelines, BC. But my problem isn't with him being a child. I'd go back in time and punch him a few times for good measure. No, I wouldn't be messing with the timelines. It's too dangerous, BC. Wouldn't do anything in the past.
I think I'd kill baby Hitler.
All right. I mean, yeah, it's not like we're approaching a golden age or anything now. So yeah, maybe I'll take my chances. I was like, I don't want to mess up the. Wait a second.
No, but like the shot is like you've like traveled back in time and you're sitting there and there's like baby Hitler in the cradle and you're like, what if I mess with the timeline? And then you cut to like present day and you're like.
Yeah, it's
there's still Nazis running around the country. There's people trying to overthrow the government.
The planet is dying.
Capitalism is running wild. Our planet is falling apart. Like, maybe I should kill this fucking baby. Just poke his eye out. Done. How much was gonna be? Anyway, to the Dial of Destiny.
They're flying. So we got all these Nazis who are cosplaying in their era-appropriate Nazi bomber plane because they're going back to Germany.
Yeah.
Where they're gonna kill Hitler. The way the Dial of Destiny works is it predicts the fissures in time, which are big holes in the sky that go to the past.
Literal fissures in the sky.
And so, Helena gets aboard the plane. Like you said, Indiana Jones has been shot. He's on the plane. Not sure why he's still alive. But they're like, Dr. Jones, come watch this. Teddy is flying behind him where the pilot wakes up in the back of the plane after several minutes after takeoff.
My favorite Teddy MacGuffin is like, well, we need to have a plane there because we're going to blow the other one up. So,
yeah. Just
Teddy
have
and a pilot should probably be there just in case,
Have him follow for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
I don't like that there's a guy on the plane with Teddy. Anyway, the big reveal here is Archimedes didn't know about continental drift. So you're not going to where you think they are or where you think you are, and they go anyway. And they go through time, and this BC was fun. This was like, I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen on the screen next. Like,
I loved it,
and I'm
This
interested.
a lot. The fact that like we're going back to the siege of Syracuse in ancient Roman times, and we're dropping a warplane in there. I'm like, hell yeah, let's just go for it. Let's do this entire sequence.
At this point, let me see something fun, and that was a great moment because a lot of times in movies, you don't get the payoff. Maybe that is one of the benefits of it being all digital, is you at least get the payoff of getting to see what's on the other side of the portal.
Yeah.
Instead of some I imagined it could have been a Last Crusade moment where it's like, we shouldn't go back or whatever. It's like, no, they go. They're in a plane and those are triremes. This is actually the siege of Syracuse. And
we are in 212 BC, not 1939. You missed because of continental drift.
One of my top 5 things in the movie BC is the the soldiers are the ancient soldiers are just kind of like, oh yeah, those are dragons. They're like not really that perturbed. They just start shooting at this thing, and we get a lot of shots of Nazis being impaled by giant metal spears.
Huge spears, yeah.
It was very fun. The Nazis are going crazy, I guess, out of fear or whatever. They're just shooting everybody. It's a mess.
It's a crazy
Archimedes shows up and is like, Eureka! Like, it's all very stupid.
He's making his current dial of destiny
during the battle. He's just
during the battle. It's all happening. It's all very exciting. Of course, the good guys get off of the plane crashes, the Nazis die, Archimedes runs up to Indiana Jones and, have a little chat.
Yeah.
And the big moment is Indiana Jones says, "Leave me here."
Yeah. Let me die here. Because he's bleeding. He's bleeding out still, I guess. Seems like there's not much of a ticking clock on that wound, but
and, I get it. If you're at the siege of Syracuse, might be it's a scenic spot to die on a hill.
I thought it would have been a good ending, honestly. I was like, if he gets to just lay here and die, that's kind of an interesting end to this whole thing.
Like, if he goes hillside, like, watching history that he spent his life studying, he explains it very well. I'm like, just leave him. Let him die there. He's old. He's shot. But no, he gets punched in the face, knocked out, and dragged back to present day.
Which I thought was I don't know. I thought it was a funny moment. Like, I think it could be read as like, this is really stupid. But I don't know. I like that she's just like knocks him out and is like, too bad. You got to get out of here.
She Indiana Jones is his ass. Yeah. Like, she takes charge and is like, no, you're going to mess things up. We're going to take you back to, 1969. And I'm going to let Marion know that you're back, baby. You know, Indy's back. So we get the sequence. We see Marion again.
Mm-hmm.
They're reunited. We get a little callback to Where Doesn't It Hurt, giving some little smoochies. It's very tender, very sweet.
Yeah, I could have done without the direct callback to, them and Raiders is a little much for me, but overall, watching like, Marion's younger than Indiana Jones for sure, but we're still so rarely do you see in media like tenderness and genuine love, or at least in the media I consume, between like like aging adults.
Yes.
I don't know. It was really touching, and I'm glad she was back, even if it's just for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I like that she's kind of presented as the love of his life throughout, the series at this point. And they have a little smooch, and then there's a reference to them getting it on. And I wanted, so we get the last shot is like the zoom into the hat on the clothesline. And there's a hand that reaches out and grabs the hat. I was waiting for the hand to come out, and I was hoping it was going to be clearly Marion's hand grabbing the hat to be like, put this on. It makes you look 2 years younger.
Yeah. I was hoping it was going to be Mutt returned from the grave and saying, "I'm the new Indiana Jones." And then a credits roll.
I was, of course, wondering if Mutt was going to be rescued at any point because of the dial. Like, I thought that might be a reveal. Like, Marion shows up and then Mutt is there because Helena, has been having adventures in time, while he's been in a coma or whatever. But I'm glad we didn't get that. It is kind of a bittersweet ending. And it's a good moment, and very like our son is dead. Like, we're old and kind of sad, but we have each other.
Yeah. It's nice.
Great.
It's nice.
I liked it.
It's a nice old people movie. That being said, I don't think it's resonating with mass audience.
No.
Box office has been a little slumpy, but I will say, as much as we picked apart a lot of stuff, I sat down, I had a soda and a popcorn, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Is it good? No. is it one of my favorite movies of all time? No. But I am very glad that I had the experience. Like, I do love, like, sitting in a theater, getting John Williams blasted at me. Shout out to him for being even older than Harrison Ford and still doing the work. He's, still doing the thing. I mean, it's better than Crystal Skull for me. I would rather watch this than Crystal Skull again. you can't. I don't think you can compare this to the original trilogy movies, really,
No.
because they're completely different things. It's why we love
I
those
wish they
originals so much because of how they were made. These are just completely different.
I just wish that they would have taken a completely different approach. I mean, I think the
Yeah.
original approach would have worked better for this anyway, which is let's keep it a little smaller and keep it a little practical. Like if this movie had had the same themes and same storyline, but instead was an hour and a half long, and the 3 action sequences were more practical. Like it's just like a shootout after some tension,
Yeah.
or whatever. I don't know. I think there's a lot here that could have been better. My biggest problem with the movie is that I was bored at like different stretches. I was sitting there like, and my wife enjoyed it. We were up past her bedtime to see it, so I was a little bit like, oh, I hope she's gonna make it through. Like without falling asleep. She had a great time and was awake the whole time. I think I'll enjoy it more on a second watch. I do think I'll watch it again. And yeah, I'm more likely to watch this than Crystal Skull. Maybe just because I've seen Crystal Skull a lot, but I don't know. I'm glad it exists. Like that's where I stand on it. And I think it'll be really interesting to watch when I'm like 70 or 80 and be like, look at this weird thing from from a while ago.
Remember this dusty old relic?
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me think about like cinema in a larger context. Like, we've talked a lot about the original practicality of this and the CGI of what this is. I do wonder if we're ever going to be like, hey, is anyone else just really tired of CGI movies? Like, let's go back to doing big scale movies with like practical effects. Like, I hope at some point in our lives, like, people like us are just old enough and in charge, and we're like, we're going to do this the old way. Mad Max rules.
Yeah.
That is one of the best theatrical experiences I've ever had because they made it that way. You know what I mean?
And it is very much, it feels like an Indiana Jones movie to me in that you've got a main character who mostly is getting the shit kicked out of him the entire time, and these like practical long chase sequences.
Yes.
Because that's what Indiana Jones boils down to for me, is like he is at his best when he is being chased and being punched. Like, when he's
being
desperate
pummeled and escaping situations.
Yeah. I love there's that moment in Crystal Skull where he's looking around in the bomb test site trying to figure out what to do, and that is like kind of looking around like wide-eyed. That's what Indiana Jones is to me. Not a lot of that in this movie, but like I said, I'll take it. There's some weird stuff in it, and I'm grateful to have gotten one last Indiana Jones movie, even if it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
What's your ranking, BC? Where do you rank the Indiana Jones movies?
Man, it's really hard for me to decide between Raiders and Last Crusade. It's like a 1A, 1B sort of situation.
Yeah.
I do think I edge Raiders just narrowly above Last Crusade, but they're interchangeable. I could pop on either one of those and just be so content and so happy. Temple of Doom sits closer to the most recent movies for me. I just don't. That one I don't have as much affinity for.
Well, actually, Last Crusade has aged pretty well because mostly you're just killing Nazis in that movie. They've all Raiders. There's some stuff that hasn't aged perfectly. Like there's the whole Marion thing where it's like, I was a child, and like it's great. It's a great scene. It's incredible. But there's some things in Raiders that are a little like Temple of Doom is like, this is offensive to me.
It's cringy.
Like, this is like
there's some cringy
stuff. This is rough. Like I get that you can watch Temple of Doom and be like, whatever. It's a pulp. It's like take it for what it is. It's silly. But I also know that 1 billion white kids watch that movie and watch the eating snakes alive and monkey brain, like all this just insensitive stuff, and then made jokes about it. It definitely informed, like that movie informed some racism, whether or not it's responsible for it, it makes me uncomfortable to watch, but there's a lot of really cool shit in that movie too.
There is cool stuff in it. But I think my initial trauma from seeing it as a child is kind of like I keep it at arm's length. You know, I'm like,
fair
it's
enough.
fine. There's cool stuff, but it scared me as a child. So yeah, and then Crystal Skull's behind Dial of Destiny.
Okay. Yeah, I would put Last Crusade first. I rewatched the original trilogy before watching these and came away being like, I do love Raiders very, very much. Last Crusade is my favorite by far. Like, definitely number one. Raiders number two. I'll put Temple of Doom at number three just because the sequences that I love, I like a lot. And I'll put this one ahead of Crystal Skull for now. PC. I mean, why not? I think just the novelty of how old like Harrison Ford is, and the weird theming of all that. Put it at number 4.
I think it's a good list. If you liked it, let us know. Comment, like, subscribe, do all the things you do on social media.
Now, this is a little bit of a covert release for the Cargo Bay, BC. We mostly talk about Star Wars trading cards now. But we did this mostly for us, I think.
Yeah, we just wanted to talk about Indiana Jones.
Normies Like Us, we were going to do a co-episode with them. I know they have released an episode. If you want to hear maybe people who do a movie podcast all the time talk about this, highly recommend Normies Like Us. But yeah, thanks, BC. Thanks for letting me ramble about our old pal Indiana Jones one last time.
Thanks for letting me ramble too, and for bringing up the word boink.
Hey, you know, this is gonna boink your brains out right here, BC. Say goodbye to Indiana Jones until I become Indiana Jones. I do want to ask, BC, you ever want to see Indiana Jones recast?
No, I don't think so.
Nah, just let it. I'd say let Indiana Jones go away. You can have another action hero. That's fine.
I think we could have another 30-minute conversation about like the future of IP and what's going to happen when all these IP people start dying, and the larger implications of what like the deep fake and resurrecting people
bad
after they're dead is, which is all really horrible. But it's like, why? I mean, recast whatever, fine, or just write a carbon copy of Indiana Jones, which everyone's been doing, and make something else. Do something new. Indiana Jones is going to end. Start something else.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Yeah. I want to ride off into the sunset. Never again. Thanks for the ride. Never again.
All right, we're done. Appreciate you.
Bye forever.
Bye, y'all.